Your fever is high, and the pressure to log in at work is too. But when you finally decide to take care of you, there's Instacart. Just because that one perfect coworker of yours is attending all meetings, camera on while she's sneezing, coughing, and aching, doesn't mean you have to do the same. Take it from us. Trying to stay on top of things will only get you further behind. Instead, get everything from tissues and teas to cough suppressants and comforting soups delivered through Instacart in as fast as 30 minutes. If anyone needs anything, they can just redirect their questions to that one perfect coworker of yours.
If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com and use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowerCat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, from the GPC studios, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the PowerCat Questions Podcast. It's February. I don't know what happened to January. It was here and now it's gone. We've moved on to another month as we get deeper and deeper into basketball season. But Wednesday was also signing day for college football. Not like many people sign anymore on the first Wednesday of February, but it was out there. We will have a press conference Thursday morning with Chris Kleiman, and we'll meet some of those newcomers, the transfers, and some of the freshmen that are on campus. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Cole Carmody, Ryan Gilbert right here in the GPC studio with two dogs that are ready to bark. They're just poised.
Knock on wood.
If you knock on wood, they will bark about that. We're sponsored by The Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Make sure you stop into The Fridge whenever you're in Manhattan. And I know you're coming to town on Saturday to watch the Cats and Longhorns tangled for the top of the Big 12 Conference right there in Bramlage Coliseum, the Octagon of Doom. So stop on by The Fridge and get all tuned up for the game. Find your pregame goodies right there at The Fridge. They can answer all your questions about products. Great staff, great service, great selection. Great location because it's close to my house. The Fridge Wholesale Liquor at the corner of this and that in the town in which we live. Got lots of questions. I don't know if they're good questions, but we got questions. And we're going to start it off here with football. And Ryan Gilbert is taking over. The bartender himself is serving up some delicious questions that are almost like cocktails. That's your setup.
Is that my cue?
Yeah, you're supposed to talk after that.
First question comes from Chris66204. Give us 7 minutes of free-flowing reaction to K-State's 2023 conference football schedule.
Well, this is tomorrow's daily delivery, so I don't want to step on myself.
I'm going to set a timer. He wants 7 minutes.
I don't know.
No, we're gonna go as long as we desire.
They can silence us.
I've been through this before. My wife sometimes asks me to go like 2 minutes, and I don't make it, so that's fine. I'm talking about my day, by the way. Mm-hmm. I don't mind the schedule. I have no real problems with K-State's schedule other than the fact they don't go to any of the new places. I was looking forward to that. I need some new
You
flavor.
can still go there, Fitz.
I know, but why would I? I think I was, honestly, I don't have kids, so I was looking forward to taking you fellas to Orlando and getting you some ears.
You can still take us to Orlando.
I'm not doing that,
okay.
man.
Okay.
We're going to be there for the NCAA tournament.
Oh, okay.
No, we're going to be there for the Cheez-It Bowl. Oh,
Okay.
wait. No, I don't want that, actually.
No. But, I don't know what all they went through. Oklahoma State got absolutely screwed. They got screwed so bad I feel badly for them. And, that takes a lot. Cincinnati got a great schedule. I don't quite understand it. It's just they did the schedule weird. They just did.
Was traveling limited for K-State because they won the conference? And the only reason I'm asking that is because I did see some interesting comments from the actual Big 12 conference on the social media accounts of K-State. I'm putting my tinfoil hat on here. I would be curious to see if the winner of the conference year in, year out doesn't have to, if it has the shortest travel distance in the conference.
Well, once they get into a cycle of scheduling, and that's another thing.
Right,
We don't know if this is a 1-year cycle of the schedule or 2-year, because we still don't know on Oklahoma and Texas. I wish there'd be some clarity on that. That they are at this point, they're either definitely around or they gave notice they're not going to be around. And I wish we knew. I'm pissed off. We don't know. We should know. But if it's a 2-year cycle, then we'll all be going to Houston and Orlando next year, but I don't know. Poor Oklahoma State doesn't play any of the existing Big 12 Texas schools. How is that even possible? How did that even work out to be a possibility that way? I gave them a great scheduling scenario there, Zach. Did they listen to me? No. They would have addressed all the needs. Did they want it? No. Kansas State not playing Oklahoma but playing Texas is crap. So,
would you rather have played Texas or Oklahoma?
Oklahoma. I think all the Big 8 schools should be playing Oklahoma every time possible, and the Southwest Conference schools should be playing Texas.
So in reality, we would have had to have Oklahoma be one of your home games, so you wouldn't be playing either UCF or Houston. I guess you could go on the road and play either UCF or Houston.
At this point, it's just all domino effect.
Right.
I think that Texas got the schedule that Texas deserves, or at least they think they deserve. They barely have to leave the state of Texas. It's exactly what you would expect from a school that believes that they run the conference. It is absolutely on brand for what Texas is. I think OU got the most deserving schedule for a team that is leaving the conference. They have to go to BYU. They have to go to Cincinnati. They don't get any of the old Big 8 schools other than Iowa State at home. They kind of have a lame schedule as far as being a lame duck goes.
What could possibly go wrong with Provo in mid-November?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to matter for them by then.
Yeah.
I'm happy OU is playing UCF, though, because I am intrigued by Dylan Gabriel playing his old team. I just kind of wish that game was in Orlando. I would love to have seen the reaction. I would imagine UCF fans would welcome him back with open arms. But you look at K-State's schedule. All right, I know it's way too early to be talking about this, but I'm going to bring it up. They have to have an alternate uniform at some point. We're going to have all summer to talk about this, so I'm only going to put this at the very front. They should have an alternate uniform the very first game against Southeast Missouri.
Why? To break the jinx?
Yes.
And you want them to lose to SEMO? Is that what you want? You've got money on this, Cole Carmody.
Now,
you're trying to set this up.
In fairness, K-State does have a pretty remarkable non-conference schedule. All 3 teams made the postseason. SEMO made the FCS playoffs, lost in the first round, but Troy won their conference. Missouri made a bowl game.
Barely.
True. Has that happened? I mean, off the top of your head, can you guys remember a non-conference where K-State's played 3 teams that made the postseason?
No.
I bet you wouldn't have to go that far back.
You don't think?
No.
Is Troy better than Missouri? Honestly, I don't know what Troy returns. Maybe they graduated.
I do think they graduated quite a bit, but I don't know who's going to play quarterback for Missouri right now. They got that Miami transfer. I think Troy probably is the better team of Troy and Missouri, but we'll find out. It'll be interesting. It's going to be a fun non-con because I think it'll get them ready for conference play. And like we talked about on our Twitter space, that we did right after it released, the conference just doesn't feel as deep this year because it's a little diluted. Now, It will be better in the future, but this year, as teams are making the transition, it just feels like there's a little bit better teams at the top and worse teams at the bottom.
Well, it introduces some new factors, and we don't have a familiarity with any of those new schools. We have, kind of a rough thought about what they are, and he just demanded attention, man. Mm-hmm. He just walked up to you and he aggressively nudged you. But let's be honest here. Houston basically replaces Oklahoma on K-State's schedule. So you take a stretch of games with TCU, Oklahoma, and Texas and turn it into TCU, Houston, and Texas. And that changes the context a lot. That's a lot easier. I'm sorry. So it is interesting. I think the most important coverage we've offered was my tailgating drinks that I did on Twitter. I think that was probably the type of coverage everyone wants and needs.
But your Nancy's were not, there was no specific creator or bartender that made your Nancy's.
Well, are you going to walk around the tailgates and
Yes.
make the Nancy's for
Yes.
everyone?
Yes.
Wow.
All the people.
All the people. Yeah, I don't think the Nancy's that hard to make.
It's pretty tough.
I mean, how much pineapple does go in a Nancy?
The secret. I can't tell you.
It's 25%.
Do you like K-State playing on a Friday night? At
I was just going
Oklahoma
to say,
State?
No, I don't.
I
I think it's good for the brand.
I love weeknight games.
At least it's after the bye.
yeah.
Even if it wasn't, it's on a Friday. 6 days is fine.
Would Thursday have been better?
Thursday's better. Thursday's absolutely
Even though
better.
you're not competing with,
But it's not a home
competing
game,
with
so
the
why
NFL?
does it really matter what day it's
I'm upset about high school football. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to Friday night and high school football.
And it's also during the MLB playoffs, too. So does that mean that this game won't be on ESPN or Fox?
It'll be on ESPN. It won't be on Fox. If that's the case.
ESPN has playoff baseball, too.
They have playoff baseball now?
In the wild card and wild card round. And that's probably when this is October 6th. So
ESPN Plus.
Well, I'll
it
say
might
this.
be. It probably is a contender for that. But
Well, what a travesty it'd be to move a game to Friday night and put it on Plus.
yeah.
Certainly, they've got a plan for this.
They can put it on ABC. Fox will put Friday night games on Fox. They have no problem doing that at times.
during baseball season,
I guess.
though, yeah.
Well, I guess maybe it's been a while because WWE has that time frame
Right.
now on Fox in prime time. But
You would hope it would be. You would hope it would be on a national network.
Yeah. If
Right.
it was Houston KU, I could see them doing ESPN Plus, but these are two good teams, right?
I mean, I feel like if you're putting a game on a midweek, or not midweek, but
During the week.
you're not going to put it on a streaming service.
Hope not.
I know a lot of people have been upset about the bye week being early, and I get that it's not ideal, but there's some positives there. You're going to be well rested for the thick of Big 12 play in the middle of the season.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you'd have it after 6, but
Yeah,
it just falls where it
but
falls.
everyone can't have one right in the middle.
No.
So
People are frustrated too. You're going to play on September 23rd, then you're not going to be back at home until October 21st.
That is weird.
Yeah.
That is strange
You've
because
got a 5-week stretch with one home game and 3 road games.
you could be playing a game when it's 85 degrees outside on a Saturday afternoon against UCF in September, and then come back and it be 50 degrees at a 3:00 kick against TCU.
But you do get 4 out of 6 at home coming down the stretch.
which is bigger than the not playing at home, especially when you look at who you play, because it could be a lot worse.
Right.
I think that the Big 12 championship game will be between two teams that did not play each other in the regular season. I
hope that's how it ends up.
I think it's how it will. I think
So
that'll
who's
be how it
K-State
happens.
playing then?
I don't know.
West Virginia,
Actually,
obviously.
if you look at Cincinnati's schedule, I think that Cincinnati got pretty favorable.
Do you have it in front of you, by the way?
Yes. Who do you want?
Read off how Cincinnati finishes. It's unbelievable.
Well, I'll just go for the whole
Okay.
Big 12. Home against Oklahoma, at BYU, bye. Iowa State at home, Baylor at home, at Oklahoma State, UCF at home, then at Houston, at West Virginia, at KU.
They have three.
Or excuse me, KU at home.
Right.
KU at home. Sorry.
They've got
Those last
Houston,
3 games.
West Virginia, and Kansas to close their schedule. If they're in a good position, oh my God, they're set up. Kansas is going to be good. I think they'll be a problem again, but they're not one of the powers. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
From 3G Wildcat, with the release of the new football schedule, are there things about the 10 teams, the 10 team schedules for football and basketball that you will miss as we move to the 14 and then 12?
Well, I don't care about the 14 schedule. This is just, I've been saying it over and over. 14 is the worst to schedule with, and I think the Big 12 gets it now. I think the Big 12 office is probably like, okay, we're not going to stop at 14. It's a mess. It's hard to get it to even out because it just doesn't work. 14 is a bad number to schedule with. I think if they get to 16, there's a lot of sense in how you can schedule. I mean, you essentially, play everyone, if you have a pod, which, would be easy to do with the former Big 8 schools, you play everyone in your pod and then 2 from everyone else's pod and you're at 9. So that's pretty easy. And you get to play everyone sooner rather than later. Basketball to be a little strange. I almost don't mind them playing if they played 20 conference games. I think the conference is so good that you could get away with that. Maybe the coaches don't want that, but basketball is different than football. I mean, based on what happened in the SEC Challenge, I mean, West Virginia and Oklahoma might be back in the conversation for bids if they can just win some more games. So, I don't know. I like the round robin. It's a thorough way to schedule. You get really a balanced schedule. You get, the two best teams are clearly going to meet for the title, not based on, schedule disparities. But I also get tired of it. It's the same teams over. 75% of your schedule every year is the same group, and I think it's bad for attendance. So a little fresh blood is good.
I think so too. I like the 12-team schedule. I'm excited for that because you're going to have familiarity with the teams that you play, but it's not going to be so familiar that, again, you're just bashing your brain against the wall. I feel like that against TCU, it was like you knew exactly how K-State and TCU were going to match up. They're the two best teams in the conference. It showed throughout the season. You knew exactly how that game was going to play out. It was going to be a close game, and one team was going to find a way to win it late, and that happened to be K-State. But I'm going to miss the round robin for basketball, the home and home. I like it. I really do, especially when the conference is this good. If it wasn't this good, maybe it wouldn't be as fun. But
I think it's what makes the conference this good.
Yeah.
Everybody has to play each other twice.
Like I am looking forward to K-State getting to play KU for a third time, hopefully in the Big 12 tournament. I know we'll get to that, I'm sure, later, but like that kind of thing, those kind of things. I want to see K-State play Baylor. I'm excited to see them play Baylor in Manhattan. Like there's just so many things that I like about that format. I know they can't do it, but it's pretty cool.
Yes.
I know the Big 12's motto years back was one true champion, right? And you lose that now with not having a round robin or a double round robin in basketball. So I will miss that, like you mentioned, Fitz. But like championship games, when you have a round robin, are just so stupid, in my opinion. Like you're just taking the two best teams. You're not taking one side versus against the other side and meeting together. It's just two teams at the top of the standings. And so I'll miss the true champion that you do crown in the regular season, but postseason wise, I'm happy that it's going to be two different, pods or divisions, whatever that may be, meeting up in a championship game.
No, it'll still be the top teams. I think there's going to be one set of standings. So,
but the way the schedule lines up, there's going to be
you won't necessarily
tendencies. What's the word I'm looking for?
You won't necessarily have played everyone.
You'll have to use what the Pac-12 did this last year for football is exactly what. You'll have to make tiebreak procedures, and it'll be kind of awkward at times, but
it's really no different than what the NFL does. Everyone in the AFC, you line up, and you've got your seedings. So that's basically what they'll do. I'm excited. I'm excited to have some new blood. I can't wait, to see where everything ends up because I don't think anything's done yet.
Fresh meat.
So correct me if I'm wrong. When are we going to know K-State's consistent set schedule? Is that going to be next year or the year after next year?
Well, that's my question. I don't know if we're in a 2-year cycle, if Oklahoma and Texas are sticking around for 24, or if the talk of them leaving for 24 to go to the SEC is true. I would be happy if they left in 24.
Yeah.
I'm done with them. It would
be nice to see what the ACC did with all of their 3 protected games. Each team has 3 protected opponents. It'd be nice to see K-State's or even the whole Big 12's protected opponents for that. Which teams are going to play which teams every year. Because if you look at K-State's schedule, you definitely think it's KU. You definitely think it's Iowa State, and you definitely think it's Oklahoma State.
Yep, that's it.
That's who they should be, but it'd be nice to see if that is the case. Because I think that K-State should play those 3 schools year in, year out.
If they go into another round of expansion, ideally they'll add 3 teams out west and 1 more out east, and you'll have just perfectly laid out pods.
Yeah.
You'll have a Texas pod, a Big 8 pod, a West pod, and an East pod. And it would make sense just to, the SEC, my 3 teams may not necessarily be your 3 teams. You and I are going to play, but you're going to play Gills and I'm going to play Zach. And so it doesn't add up to, actual pods. They're just doing 3 protected games. So it gets even more difficult for fans to track and understand. And I don't like that. I'm not sure how you divide it up, but I think if you're Alabama, you want to play Auburn every year and probably the Mississippi schools. Those are your long-time, traditional, going back to early 1900s rivals. I would think.
I think they should play, their Tennessee every year, whatever. I mean, obviously Tennessee can't play everyone, but they're the one school from the East, maybe Georgia as well. But you want to play one of those two schools each year, probably.
Well, and that's the advantage of a pod. You can literally say, look, okay, Oklahoma State, K-State, KU, and Iowa State are a pod, but Kansas State's going to play TCU every year.
Well, that's what I was getting to. That's what I was going to ask you guys. Would you rather, if you had protected games, see K-State play Oklahoma State or TCU? Because I think TCU K-State is a budding rivalry.
I agree, and I mean that it's easy to do that, and you would have one annual rival in each pod that's not your pod, and then the final game you rotate through the other three on 2-year cycles, playing everyone every 6 years. I think it's a great way to do it. It's thorough. You build up some great rivalries. I mean, you make sure Cincinnati and West Virginia are playing every year, and if South Florida had taken care of business, they would probably be in the conference with Central Florida. They just aren't anywhere near the radar now because they haven't taken care of their business. But I just think it's a cool way to do it. And then, maybe you kind of manufacture some rivalries in a way. And
I think you can do that if you just literally follow the NFL's scheduling system. You play everybody in your division, so there's 3 games. You play one other division, everybody. There's 4 more games, so you're at 7. The other 2 divisions, you play the team equal to how you finished last season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, figuring out where you play those games is going to be the hardest part, but
it gets difficult because you got to do it in 2-year cycles. You got to do home and homes.
But if you finish in first place, you're going to have to go up against, clearly better teams next year. So you got to earn
there's your rivalry for you,
right?
Yeah, we'll see how they sort it out. I hope they're transparent about it. I hope they come out and say this is the system we used, not just some wild computer system. And keep this in mind. We're getting rid of the Red River rivalry, and it's gone. That has mucked up the schedule for everyone all year long. And honestly, it's made the schedules uneven because everyone else is playing 5 at home, 4 on the road, 4 at home, 5 on the road, and those 2 schools get to play 4-4 in a neutral site game every year, and it's not fair. It's not. It's worked to their advantage tremendously.
From Cat in KC, how much, if any, does the loss of Thad Ward hurt? He seems to move around a bunch.
I don't crave a crap. People are worked up about this. You know what? You want to be here 1 year and leave, see ya. I don't. I mean, maybe he's a great recruiter. Maybe he's a good coach. But if that's all the commitment you have to the program, see ya, man. Have fun at Illinois.
Where he was before.
Right. Go do your thing.
I don't think that this really is that big of a loss. I mean, the recruiting that you would see would be in this class, like the 24 class, not the 23 class. I don't want to say that I'm not surprised, but if there was anybody that I would say would probably have that happen, it would probably be him. You're right. Cat and Casey, he has moved around a bunch. The only other thing that this was why I would say this would kind of be a big deal would be maybe some of these receivers that they brought in. You look at a guy like Wesley Watson. But again, this happens after signing day, Zach. Sorry if you committed to K-State and Thad Ward was the lead recruiter. You're stuck here for a year, so sorry. But, I don't think this is that big of a deal. The ties were already established, so it's not that big of a loss. And for 24, you can continue to move on to your other targets if he was the main recruiter.
I don't want to undermine the wide receiver position, but I feel as far as position coaches go, and especially how they switched him around a couple of years ago, I feel like that's one of the positions where you can literally get any guy, and as long as he fits in with the team, he can have success, and he can recruit.
He was here for less than 365 days, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So even a lot of recruits, that relationship stems back for at least a year, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, it's a wide receivers coach. If this is a coordinator or something, then I think we can have that discussion. But just in terms of the scheme and on the field, all that stuff, it doesn't matter. And like Fitz said, a guy that's going to bounce after a year, I don't think we should be concerned.
And what's interesting here too, guys, they didn't rotate hardly at all at the wide receiver position.
Was weird.
That almost makes me wonder if there was a little bit of butting heads, maybe.
Yeah.
Different philosophies. Colin has said multiple times, we want to play the 3 best guys. But I remember talking to Thad Ward in the summer who said, we got a lot of guys that are going to be able to play. So maybe there was a little bit of conflicting interest there. I don't know. I'm totally speculating. I have no idea. But Either way, he's going to coach running backs now. Maybe that's what he wanted to do, and he didn't want to coach receivers. I have no idea, but this could be a good hire.
That is one thing to think about. Is
right.
He went to go coach running backs. Maybe he's better at that.
Yeah,
but depending on who they bring in, maybe and truthfully, I don't remember what Thad Ward's pedigree was as far as where he
was
coached
at Temple and Illinois,
and what positions specifically he's coached at all of those. But if you look at whoever's coming in next, and if it's a wide receiver guy, maybe he's going to be a better fit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Compliment you do have to give him. Like, how many times did we bash K-State's receiver group this year compared to last season, right?
Oh, yeah.
They made a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
He was good.
And I think there was some of that was play calling and quarterback play. I mean, let's be blunt here. It was easy to bash the receivers before Will Howard took over because the ball just wasn't going downfield.
Yeah. Last question from Go Upercat. The NCAA just announced a more relaxed burden of proof for NIL violation enforcement to help crack down on enticement among other misuses. Is this going to make any difference, or is this simply more empty NCAA posturing?
I got to be honest, I haven't seen this, so I don't know. They got to do something, but NCAA is feckless and useless, and I mean I don't even understand the point of that.
Bill Self's still a coach. KU still gets to go to the tournament, and still until something happens with them.
Right.
Well,
no.
and this is my approach on it. Whether he's guilty or not, the program's guilty or not, this investigation has gone on too long.
Yeah.
This is not. I mean, what if at the end of the day, let's just take the opposite view. We all think there's stuff going on, but what at the end of the day they say, well, we didn't find anything. Well, you just punish the hell out of a program that you apparently don't find any wrongdoing. And then maybe you go, the opposite's true. You get, we found all kinds of stuff. That's why it took so long. Well, they won a national championship in the interim. You can tell them they have to forfeit that and give it back, but they're still going to hang a banner, I guarantee it.
Well, the NIL thing throws a whole nother wrench into this conversation. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes that nobody knows. That how is the NCAA ever going to know about any of this NIL stuff? At least it was more suspicious before NIL. If you see a kid driving around town in a Rolls Royce, all right, something happened. We got to look into this. But now with NIL, it's almost as if it's free violations. Who knows? Where'd you get that? Oh, I signed an NIL deal with this company, and it just goes down the rabbit hole. Like, there's just so many alleys that you can go down now that schools that want to cheat can just use this as a cover-up to cheat.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't see how this isn't empty NCAA posturing.
Right.
How are they going to enforce this with the current staff and capabilities they have? That, like you said, they can't even do anything to KU. Because whatever they did is either so big and so messy that it's taken them this long, or they're completely incompetent.
Right.
And they are incapable of enforcing their own rules on one of their member institutions.
Let's say I own a car dealership and I want to sign recruits to NIL deals. And, they don't get the car until they're actually on campus. And we can sign whatever we want in advance. The NCAA has no ability to get me to cooperate. They can threaten me with, and this is what the NCAA does. They threaten you, well, we're going to say that you can't be involved with the school anymore. Well, I'll just sue the crap out of you. You can't affect my ability to do business. I mean, that's not anywhere in your scope of authority. And, until the schools flat out say, we're going to give the NCAA free rein, and we're going to allow the NCAA to embed an enforcement officer at every institution, which will bring up a whole new level of cheating. I mean,
corrupt inside of
you'll see
corruption.
You'll see $80,000 a year NCAA employees driving Rolls Royces all of a sudden. But I just don't know how they're ever going to do it. I always laugh. I'm a Salina guy. I grew up watching Marymount College basketball when they were a national power at the NAIA level. And I love Coach Ken Cochran's quote about the rules at the NAIA level. We got 2 rules. Don't cheat, and if you do, turn yourselves in. And I laugh about it because that's basically what the NCAA should be doing. Don't cheat. If you do, turn yourself in. Because that would be more effective than what they're doing now. It's crap. What they're doing is crap. They literally need to take the entire rule book, chuck it out, and make it so easy to understand. Here's what you can and can't do. And, if we have to interpret whether this fits that or this, then we'll do that. But here's what you can and can't do. Don't do that. Just don't do it. And if you're involved in it, we're going to have an issue.
Well, at this point, the NCAA only serves the purpose. They exist to, I can't talk right now. They solely exist to manage the media rights of their postseason championships. Right. That is what the NCAA is. They manage the media rights, which they've sold for millions of dollars, billions of dollars to ESPN, to Turner for multiple years from now. They are virtually useless for the time being because they are in long-term deals.
And those entities don't want to see Kansas banned from the tournament. They don't want to see, let's say, a Georgia banned from football participation because they're cheating with the NIL. They don't want to see that, and they're going to be upset with the NCAA if they do that. They damage the product that they're paying for. It's a mess. The whole thing's a mess.
Right now, the NCAA's bylaws are basically the Articles of Confederation.
Said in about 6-inch thick manual.
Yeah.
There's no way anyone could possibly not trip over something.
The NCAA is basically the Articles of Confederation. There's no governing body, and it's just time. Maybe they just need to write a constitution or something. I agree.
They just need to start over.
Yeah.
They need to have the states need to all get together and say, we're starting over. This is not working.
Let's go ask Thomas Jefferson and see what he thinks.
Old Tom. See if he's got any time to do some writing. He's dead. By the way, folks, that's a joke because he's dead. Thomas Jefferson's dead.
It's news to me.
So is this first half of this podcast. It's dead. We'll be back. The dogs will bark. I will curse. We will talk.
GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Is your January looking dry? Get some lotion. Get a humidifier. And better yet, get Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices across local stores to get the best price on a huge selection of drinks perfect for dry January. Every single time. Non-alcoholic wines? Have a look. Ready-made mocktails? Grab a straw and order them up. Beer without the alcohol? Yep, take your pick. You can find all of them here, in the app, in that phone that's in your hand. Could it be any simpler? Nope, not a chance. So shop for great deals on all your dry January beverages or other drinks and get them delivered to your door or blanket fort, maybe. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. And don't forget to lotion up your elbows. They're looking a little dry.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast. Now, let's return to the GPC studios.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Fitz and Zach and Cole and Gills. Coles and Gills.
Midnights. What happened to that nickname? I haven't heard that in forever.
After midnight, we're going to let it all hang out.
Good thing that's not getting flagged because you weren't even close to being on beat.
That was damn good. American Idol stuff right there. Get into the Fridge whenever you're in town. If you're a local and you're not shopping at the Fridge, I'm sorry that your life is that meaningless. Well, maybe you don't drink, you don't shop there, so that's okay. But you could stop by and pick up some milk. Do they have milk there? I don't think they have milk. They don't have perishables other than fruit.
You know what else they have there?
What?
Cigars.
They do have cigars in a box right there, like a place where they tell jokes, the humidor. That's it for the read for the Fridge. I think that was worth every penny they paid.
That went over my head.
Yeah, that's okay. A lot of things do, Gills. A lot of things do. Now with your questions from Wabash Station as we turn our attention to other things. I don't know what those things are. It might be basketball. Ryan Gills.
No.
I thought you said you were reading.
I thought it. What?
We are off to a hot start.
Am I wrong or is Fitz wrong?
Cole is reading.
Cole's reading still? Oh, yeah, because, okay, go ahead. Cole. I'm sorry. I that was me. I was all on me.
For once, it was not my fault.
It's not my fault. I got cancer. See, you can use it for anything,
Okay.
man. You can. I need a nap because I got cancer. I'm hungry because I got cancer.
There's no good segue.
I need a beer because I got cancer. It just works. Just works.
I need to go to So Long and
Give
not
me some
Lucha.
advantages out of this, man.
Oh, great. From Jerome Yang, there are 10,000 million quadrillion things, I think that's what he said, I would rather talk about than refereeing, but do we need to talk about refereeing?
Why don't you answer this yourself, Jerome?
I don't want to talk about refereeing. There was a couple calls I really didn't think were right and game-changing, but those things happen in games. It would have been nice to have some calls go a different way, but you know what would have been really nice? Not to turn the ball over 10 times in the first half. Not to miss 4-foot open shots. Not to let them have open shot after open shot because your defense broke down. That'd have been nice.
Was Tang getting the technical, was that technical worthy? I couldn't make the argument no.
I mean,
personally?
No, probably not, but I think he felt it needed to be done.
Sure.
Well, here's my question. Did he do push-ups because he used a bad word?
No, he did not.
He didn't
no,
cuss.
And if he didn't use a bad word, what did he get a technical for?
So he's
the way he waved his arm.
He said no.
He said no and waved his arm.
Come on, John
And
Higgins.
Yeah, it was Higgy Bear.
Cut the crap out. Really? You're out there making dramatic calls all the time.
Yeah. I guarantee you that Self said way worse things to Higgins throughout the course of that game, and he never got a technical. That's my issue. Like, the only issue I had, I don't care. I'm sure Tang didn't mind getting the technical foul.
No, I think you wanted it.
Yeah. But I also think sometimes he's reacted like that, and he's got treated differently than if Bill Self were to just say no, because they're used to another 4-letter word being in front of that before Self says it. So when Tang says anything remotely close to that, they get offended.
One of the Achilles heels of officials is when they know they've screwed up, they cover it up by calling a technical instead of just taking it like a man.
That was a terrible sequence for the officials.
It really was.
I understand that they didn't call anything on Keontae. That's fine. But then when KU gets the ball and they go down and then Ish goes straight up, and I don't know if there was a foul or not, but I didn't think it looked like it in real time. And then they call a foul, and then Tang gets teed up. That's just a really bad sequence. It looks bad on the officials. Even if it's the right call, it looks bad, and it leads us to have these conversations.
But the worst part, and this isn't anything to do with the game in particular, but the night before, John Higgins was on ESPN in Austin, Texas, between Texas and Baylor, and they put his laundry list up of a world tour that he's been on the last 7 days. They didn't say where he was going next. Because initially I thought, like, how is John Higgins here? They just put his schedule up. I don't remember seeing it. No, that was all the games he's just done. He's done like 8 or 9 straight days or whatever. He's literally somehow flying through all of this weather and never missing a game.
Hopefully no one needs their roof fixed.
The rooferees.
It's bull crap how many games these guys work.
They need more referees, and they need, at this point for basketball, the leagues need to have their own sets of
But
refs.
you know why there isn't more people in officiating? It's all to do with maybe not our generation, Ryan and Zach. Maybe it's more not necessarily your generation, but the generation maybe just above you.
You calling Fitz old?
I'm not calling Fitz old.
Goodness, just because he has cancer doesn't you just say he's old.
He wanted the perks.
What comes before boomer, Fitz?
I'm not a boomer.
There's too many people that run off referees, and so nobody wants to do it.
No, that's exactly right.
If you got yelled at, would you want to do it consistently? No. There was a video that was at a high school game. My dad showed me this, and apparently the crowd was like absolutely going crazy at the referee. And so the teacher who was running the scoreboard gets on the PA and says, Please do not boo the officials during a timeout. If you think that it's so easy, come down and we'll put a striped jersey on you. So sit down and shut up.
Good.
Could you imagine if Mitch Fortner did that?
Well,
No.
not at the college level, the high school level.
No.
You pay the price of admission. You can boo all you want.
But at the high school level, like good high school officials, maybe they decide, oh, I'm pretty good at this. I'm going to try and make the transition to college. And then you just work your way up from there. So if you can't even do a high school game without getting yelled at, without getting booed at, if you can't do a little league game without parents yelling at you, there's no reason. Like, why would you want to do it?
Okay,
There's no
so
reason.
you could make an argument that officiating is suffering just like politics, because the only people that can survive the process of what you got to go through in either profession is a narcissist.
Yes.
You absolutely don't care. You're almost disconnected from what anyone else in the world thinks.
You got to want the hate.
Yeah, or you just somehow don't have any. It doesn't mean anything to you, which I don't know how that's possible. But that, I mean, I'm not trying to be political, but that's my problem with the political system right now, is the only people that survive the crap you have to go through to get elected to office, I don't want in office. That for the most part, it's just an awful thing that we do now, and part of it's social media, but I mean, it is so hostile at youth sports. And I've yelled at umpires when I was playing softball and stuff, and but it's almost always for not exerting effort, being in the right place. I understand you miss a call here or there, but observe your fundamentals and do that. And I don't think officials are learning all of that right now because they're just so eager to keep anyone on board. Again, we have to come up with a whole new way of creating officials. And I go back to my plan of having former athletes, having camps created by the NCAA to start trying to get former athletes into officiating and say, hey, we're going to start you off. Yeah, you're going to do some junior high basketball. But I guarantee you, since you were, played on a Division I college basketball team, mom and dad aren't going to be as eager to yell at you as the guy that owns the hardware store. Yeah. It's all a mess. But.
I mean, Gil's brought the joke up, but it makes a good point about John Higgins owning a roofing business. He's not a full-time referee.
None of them are.
He's a referee.
Jeez. Nobody in the NCAA, I don't know about the NBA or NHL, but NFL, they are not full-time officials there. That's the problem with refereeing in general. You're asking a bunch of third parties that are not affiliated. They're like, hey, come referee for us part-time. We'll pay you a ton of money, enough that would be great money if you were a full-time official for us, but you're not. You're just part-time. So when you start making officials full-time, making them practice, John Higgins goes to probably one referee convention a year for maybe a week and learns kind of the points and things of, points of emphasis for the next season. But after that, he's not practicing anything. He's just going through the motions. And by a certain point, geez, Cole.
I'm doing
Cole is making his
emphatic.
motions.
Yes.
But there's no film study. He's on a flight going from point to point. He doesn't have time to do anything other than referee basketball, and that is the only thing that happens for him. And that's probably why, as seasons go on, the points of emphasis are lost. Flopping, gone. At a certain point, wasn't there a flop actually called last night?
Yeah. On Yesupu, yeah.
They're so infrequent that I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, it was very strange.
And KU fans did not boo that one of all the calls.
And they were like, yep,
they accepted it, yeah.
Did they clap after every made basket?
But pretty much.
But my point is, they don't put in any effort to make themselves better throughout the year because they're so busy doing the job that they are asked to do.
It's like every year there's always something that's going to be new with college basketball officiating, right?
It's
and then
good for a month.
It dwindles off.
November, December, and then January comes around. Oh,
right.
Good old college basketball.
Back to the game itself, though. Kansas State did not lose because of the officiating. That's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. Were there some calls that went against K-State? You can make an argument, sure. KU had a great night, and I don't think KU loses to any team in college basketball on Tuesday night. And so The officiating is not the biggest story of this game.
It hurts the product on the floor.
I want to say something about Jay Billis and his.
Oh yes, please do.
Did he? So
it was terrible.
Fill me in.
It was terrible.
I think the worst call in the game against K-State was Gasson got called for. I don't even know what he got called for.
Over the back, maybe?
No, Jalen Wilson missed a runner. The replay shows Gasson was at his side with his hands up, and it didn't appear to be any contact. And Kip Kissinger watched and realized the ball didn't go in, and then he called a foul. And Billis was really quick to say, well, the NCAA wants you to wait a couple beats before you make a call so you get it right. Jay, that's not what he did. Mm-hmm. He didn't wait to get the call right. He waited to see if the ball went in. That's horrible officiating. It's either a foul or it's not a foul. The result of the ball going in or not shouldn't result in whether you want to call a foul or not. That was just such a horrendous call. It was almost like he said, oh, he missed it. He must have been fouled. And then you look at the replay and you're like, what exactly did you call there? Because you apparently can't play defense. Mm-hmm. And then another play, either way, guy drives in the lane and gets his arms taken off. That's okay.
If the roles were reversed, Jay Billis would not have those same comments.
I would agree.
Probably not.
The bias was very real for Jay Billis last night.
He just loves the Blue Bloods.
Exactly.
He's just he's a guy that is a member of the country club and looks down at you if you're not in his country club.
And I know this isn't one of the questions.
He's an arrogant son of a bitch, and I hate him. He just is. He's intolerable to me.
Well, this isn't on the questions, but I am going to bring this up because I think it'll be quick with this. But we talked about this game being on ESPN Plus, and I think we agreed we came to a conclusion that it wasn't that big of a deal. They're still going to have the best production that they possibly can. I don't know about you, Fitz, because you and Zach and Gills were at the game. Fitz, I don't know about you. The production level was absolutely terrible last night. I could not understand for the life of me why they didn't show replays of things that needed to have replays shown. There would be a questionable call or there would be a missed shot, and there wouldn't be any replays. Like, there'd be a questionable call, and just like, oh, that was a close one. But they didn't show any replays.
It was weird.
And then John Sciambi was supposed to be on the call. It was Mark Neely. I know that,
I was confused by that.
I'm guessing.
I thought I saw Mark Neely there. Yeah.
I'm guessing Sciambi was stuck in Dallas or something when the snow. But
I don't know. It was just a weird present. I didn't much care for the broadcast. It really didn't matter. But
here's my biggest issue with Plus. And I understand how they view Plus as an equal partner, and that they're not looking down on the games that are put on there, which is all BS. I mean, it's just a simple reality of the situation. Whether you're on traditional cable or YouTube TV, you go through the guide to find the game you want to watch, and ESPN Plus isn't on the guide. So you're missing those games. I don't think to look for a high-profile game on ESPN Plus. I don't. But because we have our studio in our house and we now have it available, I have 2 gig fiber internet. I have probably some of the fastest residential internet, and yet I was buffering during the game. Mm-hmm. So that is not on my end. That's not a speed issue. That is a choke point issue that you've got going on with ESPN Plus. You have to fix that. And this is the problem with live sports is, you're sending down the signal immediately. If something's just streaming and you click play and it takes like 10 seconds to load or 15, it's probably back-loading stuff, so you never end up buffering because it's kind of got stuff loaded up for you already. Live sports, it's happening, and you need it right then. They've got to work through that. They've got to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm buffering, I can't imagine what someone in a rural area is going through. It's probably completely useless.
Yep.
Why is it not live streaming? I'd never understand it.
It's just a long process.
What's the delay for? I can get on the internet right now and FaceTime somebody instantly.
Well,
there's no that's 10-second delay or 2-minute delay, whatever it may be.
It's got to go from the cameras to the truck to the satellite to outer space to back down to where it receives it, and then through the cables.
And they're having to broadcast at 4K. I think they have to shoot in 4K now, even though most stations don't have it.
science.
Are they really?
I think so. I think they typically have to be.
I mean, like ESPN, and one thing I will always support streaming over regular cable is cable still produces, or it's not streams, but they provide the feed at 720p at 1K basically. You can get on the internet and you can have full HD, and it's the same cameras, and it looks so much better streaming than it does on your television through cable.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wasn't necessarily.
That was not the case last night because I did have it on ESPN Plus on my computer for a bit, and I was like,
not good.
"This sucks." And it was also a minute delayed.
Yeah.
And then they finally turned the TV on to the Jumbotron feed.
Yep. Next question comes from the Dot 2. Any consistent Tang coaching weaknesses that need improvement?
No.
K-State,
their roster, I mean, yeah, Johnson and Noel, but other than those guys, like the rest of the roster has been very inconsistent.
Timeout management? And I'm not referring to last night.
Yeah, he's kind of admitted that. Sometimes he lets things go too long.
Right. That'd be the only thing I would say. And even then, it's just a feel thing. And
one of the things I like about Jerome Tang is he kind of recognizes his own weaknesses, so he went out and hired people to address those weaknesses. I don't know. I mean, I think he's done a great job of assembling a staff that makes him a better coach in person. Dream Dowling kept him from murder last night. There was going to be a murder. He was barking at Dream. I'd love to know what he said. You know what, though? That's the advantage of having someone that is your close friend in that role. Because if one of my close friends barked at me, shut the hell up, I'd laugh about it. And I'm just, it wouldn't be personal at all. But no, I think we're all a little bit honestly surprised at how adept he is at coaching, how good he is at putting together the products, considering that hasn't been his job in the past.
Yeah, like the X's and O's, there's not a lot that I can say. It's like, oh, I don't think this is very good. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there was a time where K-State went to a zone, Bill Self called timeout, and then K-State came back to man. And then it just completely scrapped what KU was going to do.
Yeah. Just little things like that I think he does a good job with. I don't think there's any... Look, I mean, even Bill Self gets out-coached at times. He's a great coach. But, I got no real problems there. I'm still astonished at how well they put together this group of guys that just met over the summer. It's incredible. What we're witnessing is absolutely incredible. So if they lose a game here and there, I'm okay. That's okay. They've gotten better after a lot of these losses. The schedule seems to be in their favor now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a lot of critical games at home as opposed to the road. You got Iowa State's got to come in here. Texas got to come in here. TCU's got to come in here. Still haven't played Oklahoma, one of the weakest teams in the conference. Don't tell Alabama that. So they still got that. They still, have road games at Oklahoma State and West Virginia, two of the lesser teams. So if you got to go on, on the road. That might as well be there. I like the situation they're in. We'll see how it all shakes out.
Next question from Wildcat Tad 3. How do K-State's bigs improve in making layups and not missing dunks? Those 14 points would have won the game. Well, I'm going to answer this question by saying if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, then we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to be like, oh, they should have made those and we win. Like
sometimes you just miss those shots, but I think at one point they got a little timid around the rim, and you can't. If you're timid around the rim, you're not going to score. You're certainly not going to dunk.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I think it really honestly looked like those layups. They wouldn't. How do I put this elegantly? They could not squeeze a nickel out of their rear end. That's what it looked like.
Yes, and a lot of times a missed dunk is simply you shouldn't have been trying to dunk it. I mean, once in a while you get in a situation like Keontae did against who was it, Florida, where he
the windmill.
Dunked the front of the rim. And he said, as soon as I jumped, I knew I slipped. I knew I didn't have enough elevation, but I went for it. And so
I think Keontae got fouled on that last dunk that he missed against KU.
I don't know.
But yeah, I don't. Sure, airballing a layup sucks, but sometimes the ball just rolls in and rolls out. Like this is not like a consistent problem that we're seeing from this team. Is them consistently missing layups? Like. Was it McCall Mayween who just could not dunk the ball
Yeah.
when K-State was at the Big 12 championship
Yeah.
season. He just couldn't dunk, and that became a real issue. That's not going to be a problem with these guys, I don't think.
K-State doesn't have any guys that are like down low that are super. I don't want to say athletic because they are. Like Tomlin's a really athletic dude, but soft hands and just having that it factor that you cannot coach. Like we mentioned in this previous question, like Gason's probably the best guy at this, but I mean, we saw him miss a wide open like
Big
putback or a
guys.
layup.
You mean big guys.
Yeah. Like Marquise Noel, if he does a nice backwards behind the back pass, whatever. I'm holding my breath until that ball hits Bebe or Ish in the chest because more often than not, those balls have been fumbled away. And that's something we've seen, you know, like you mentioned, McCall Mayween or Stalker, James Love, all these guys that K-State had, they were just, I mean, J.O. was the same way. J.O. was a great player for Kansas State, but he had butterfingers at times. And every one of K-State's big players, Keontae, I guess I wouldn't include him in this category, but Ish and Bebe, Gason have all had their issues. And so this kind of wraps back into the first question, like I mentioned, but I don't know how much of that can just be fixed with coaching. Those guys are just, they got to have that it factor. And Marquise Noel is a tremendous point guard, but, you know, Fitz, I know you may or may not have had a lot of bets on Marquise Noel to have 5 or 6 assists last night. He didn't get there. Not Noel's fault. K-State just couldn't execute and hit shots. And so there's only so much that these guards can do. And I know there's been some strong spots this season from the post players, but that position group, I mean, Naquan Tomlin on Tuesday in the first half was just awful. And he had turnover after fumble, after missed shot that barely hit the backboard. And Kansas State, I guess that's probably maybe the one weakness that you could fix if you're Tang is to get those guys in better hand-eye coordination. I don't know how you fix that, but again, that's what I said earlier. I don't know how you fix that.
I'm going to say this about the game, and then we'll go to the next question. I had a friend texting me about this K-State game last night, and for Chiefs fans that are listening, and for non-Chiefs fans that are listening, I'm sorry, or that may or may not be sitting at the table with me, but
Hi. Hello.
I just want to say this. It kind of reminded me of the Buffalo Bills game when the Chiefs played them. The Bills played really well. The Chiefs did not play well at all. The Chiefs lost. But the Chiefs walked away knowing, okay, we didn't play our best, but we're still going to have a chance to beat them if we see them again and still do all the things we want to do. I kind of walked away from this K-State game saying they really did not play good, but they lost by 12 points on the road, and KU played absolutely amazing and out of their minds. That's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know what? You played pretty terrible, but you're not going to play like that normally, and KU's not going to play like that normally, and they're pretty dang good when they play like that. So you have to look at that as a positive for K-State. I don't know. That's just my thought on that situation.
But once KU went up by double digits in the first half, after that, I never thought K-State had a chance to win deep down.
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
It was tough.
Like, it's not like they let it slip away. Like the Iowa State game, Kansas State was going toe-to-toe and just couldn't get a stop, couldn't get that timely bucket. But this KU game was just not. It wasn't one they could win.
And it had a lot to do with KU at that point, I think. I mean, K-State made a lot of mistakes, but KU looked really.
I think the story of the game was KU and what Kansas did.
They played really well.
Yeah.
They did.
Yep. Next question comes from Imarika. Over under 6 wins out of the 9 remaining regular season basketball games.
I think 6 is the number. I think they're going to.
It's a good line.
I mean, 12-6 is. Who would have thunk that?
And you could potentially tie for first place in the Big 12 if that's your record.
You know me. I like chaos. I hope everyone's 12-6.
What are they going to do? Is everybody going to raise a banner?
Yeah.
Well,
everybody gets a trophy.
I think that'd be amazing.
For K-State? Yeah. Not really, though.
K-State's in a great position, guys. They just got to play a little bit better than they have in some of these games and go take care of business. They can't lose Saturday. I'll tell you that. Saturday's a big game. You got to beat Texas. If you lose to Texas, you're 2 games out of first. And you know, that's hard to – you need a lot of help at that point. You need people to start beating Texas. And, yeah, you got to go take care of it and take care of what you can take care of, and that includes beating Texas.
If you win these next 2 games –
you're in pretty good shape.
And I think they match up really well with Texas. I just do. I think their guard play on Texas is their strong suit. The guard play at K-State is their strong suit. And, I mean, I really like that matchup. TCU, you're going to get them without a healthy Mike Miles, maybe he doesn't even play. You're going to get them without a fully healthy Eddie Lampkin. They have not looked like the same team. I know they won last night, but I like that matchup too with K-State a lot. Without those guys being full strength, I really do.
And I mentioned this on the boards. I totally missed it. Lampkin wasn't season ending because they announced it was a torn Achilles, and then apparently it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how you get that wrong.
Yeah, I think that was like an in-game report, and then they said, actually, it's
why
not.
can't I get that? Oh, you don't have you have a cold. Oh, that's all it was. Okay.
They just mixed the C's around.
Yeah, exactly. We said cancer, but we meant cold.
Yeah. Yes.
Jeez. If you look at the schedule, I would lean over 6, but like it's not always the way you think it's going to turn out, right?
Yeah.
I think Kansas State, do they have room to get better? Yes, Tang mentioned that on Tuesday following the game that this is not the high point of the season where they're at right now, but I think they're starting to get figured out a little bit. The more games you play in the Big 12, the more that's on film, the more familiar you get. And K-State's a good team. Their coaching staff is exceptional. If I had to bet, I'd bet on K-State under 6. So you're 5-4, really.
But you look at what K-State's done. They've lost to Kansas, they lost to Iowa State, and they lost to TCU all on the road. There's not a bad loss in there. Those are losing amongst your peers in the upper crust of this conference on the road. So if you can defend your home court, which they already have with Kansas, and even that out, you're in really good shape.
If they win Saturday, I don't think they'll lose another home game.
Good point. I mean, if you defend your home court and you don't lose to anyone not in that upper tier of 6 schools, you're going to be 13-5. I mean, even that's not going to happen because you already won at Texas. You already won at Baylor. They're in a really strong position right now, guys. Because
they still have a really great chance to get 2 wins against Oklahoma, a win against Texas Tech, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is those are the, if you want to say locks, there's no locks in this conference, but that needs to be K-State's locks. And then they play West Virginia and Oklahoma State, who you've already beaten. Now, I know that it wasn't exactly easy, but you don't want to say locks, but
right.
It feels like it. Maybe not in Morgantown, but that's the last game of the season. So then you just have Texas, a TCU at home, Iowa State at home, and Baylor at home. All those road games you could seriously win. All the road games you should win. And then it just comes down to defending your home court. I agree. So
I think you're right, though. 6 is the number. I think they still find that.
Do they win the conference with?
No. 12-6 is not good enough.
Just 13-5.
Well, it depends on Saturday. If Texas wins on Saturday, I think Texas wins the conference outright.
Mm-hmm.
They are in such a strong position at that point. I know they'll have remaining games against KU and whoever else.
Yeah.
But man, Texas is in a huge position. If
K-State's back in the driver's seat if they beat Texas.
I don't know if I'd say that. Technically, yes, but it's more like they're sitting in the passenger seat and they've got their hand on the steering wheel.
I'll say this. Kansas State, as of Wednesday morning, was 900, I think 1,000, plus 1,000 on FanDuel to win the Big 12. Like, there is some insane value on that bet. And if you get that bet in and they do beat Texas, I don't want to say you're in the driver's seat. I don't want to get too quick on that, but
hope you have some money to hedge.
Yeah, the EV, all that stuff, It looks really good for K-State if they win. But that's a lot easier said than done because Texas is a good team.
Very good. The last question of the podcast comes from Exhausted Nihilist. On a scale of 1 to nuclear inferno, how hot is Jeff Mitty's seat right now?
1,
2,
3,
4,
5. Mitty, we're coming for you.
Look, his best player is injured.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got an All-American that blows out a knee. I don't know how you would possibly consider firing a coach under those circumstances when they've been having success.
She's basically worth 2 players.
Yeah.
Actually.
She's the size of 2
she's
players.
Probably worth 10 wins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
a couple school records this year would have been broken, I would assume.
He's not on the hot seat because she's coming back.
If you haven't learned this about Gene Taylor, he's only going to take care of something when it's obvious it needs to be taken care of. If you've had a bad circumstance like a pandemic or you forgot to recruit for a couple of years and that wasn't your fault. It's, the city's fault. Or, maybe you've had a big injury. He's not going to light you up for that. I mean, next year's huge. There's no doubt about it. But didn't he recently sign a contract extension?
Yeah, last year.
You don't buy out. That clearly told me Gene Taylor was like, you're our coach. There's no way to say this gracefully. You don't overspend on a sport that isn't going to make you money.
Mm-hmm. I just realized how similar Mitty looks to Kleiman. Cole's got it popped up on his computer.
He's a little bit taller.
I mean, when you're standing next to either of them,
I thought that was him.
When you're standing next to either of them, they are different people. 100%.
This is why you don't believe what you see on the internet.
On July
right?
22nd, K-State and Jeff Mitty agreed on a 2-year contract extension that will pay him $2,475,000 in base salary over the next 4 years.
2 years is pretty short, isn't it?
Well,
that's an extension.
It extends him, yeah. So he has 4 years left.
But like when Weber got his extension, it was more than 2 years, wasn't it?
I think it was probably close to being somewhat of a rolling 4-year type of deal where you can tell all the recruits, hey, I'm here for 4 years if you want to be here for 4 years.
If anybody's on the hot seat that is a coach, it would be Pete Hughes, but he just signed another extension as well in the fall. So for baseball.
Yeah,
I think they've made, after volleyball, that was really the glaring move.
Soccer maybe is the next one?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because he's a program builder.
If he hasn't been canned by now,
I mean, they're trying to.
Why would they fire him now?
I mean, they're trying to just set the groundwork still. I know it feels like it's been a while. It's been, 7 seasons since the inaugural season, but he's probably got enough time to kind of try to find the program on some footing. Get to year 10, maybe that's where you start having some conversations, but just trying to get set there. Maybe track and field, but I feel like that's going to be a retirement more than a firing.
Let me ask this question. I don't know what the buyout in that contract is. I have no clue, but let's say it's $1 million, maybe $2 million. As a fan, do you want him to fire a women's basketball coach and spend $1 million or $2 million on buying that contract out, or save that type of money to apply to paying Jerome Tang and Chris Kleiman? I mean, you're dealing with the reality of limited resources, and I don't care if you're at Texas or Kansas State. There's at some point there's a financial burden that you can't exceed. No, I don't want him buying out contracts. Maybe you can argue you shouldn't have signed the contract, but if you feel like the guy or the gal is the right person to be running the program and they're doing it clean, they're representing your school in a manner in which you want it to be represented, they're not embarrassing you because they're so non-competitive, just go do it.
Or even an assistant football coach.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but it's true.
I agree. Is that it?
That's it.
That's a long one. We're done. I'm tired. I'm cranky. I'm hungry. I'm hangry. But we appreciate you listening. Next time you check into the podcast, if you could bring some snacks, that would be great.
Dog treats?
Dog treats, they just kind of get stuck between my teeth. I don't find them satisfying as much as Dude does. We'll talk to you again next week. I hope you checked out our video podcast with Avery Johnson and Josh Freeman. It was kind of cool. A little bit something different. You're going to see more and more of that type of thing from us. Why? Because we can't be contained. You can't stop us. We're going to do whatever we want. We're GoPowerCat.com.
Thank you for listening to the Power Cat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Power Cat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
MTV's official challenge podcast is back for another season.
Season 39, Battle for a New Champion.
Yes! 24 contenders will compete to win their first championship. They know the battle, but not the victory.
So every week after the episode airs, come hang with us as we break down all the challenges and eliminations, and of course, get the inside scoop on all of the drama.
Listen to MTV's official challenge podcast wherever you get your podcasts.